Hello, everybody. We're talking once again with NHL analyst Dana Lane, and today we're going to be talking about the trade deadline that is coming up, what teams are affected, what teams may be looking to acquire what players. There's a lot of interesting dynamics to this, and first and foremost, Dana, thanks for being back with us. When I think about the trade deadline, I think about what Tampa Bay Lightning general manager Yzerman said. He would like to get rid of Jonathan Drouin sooner rather than later. Do you have any input on that or any updates perhaps?
Yeah, and matter of fact, they would love to get rid of Drouin to use his money as the playoffs start, because the way the NHL is structured, that you could theoretically even take one of your players and send them down to the American Hockey League, and that money would not count against your cap. Now, that means you could go out and get players for the playoff run, which the playoffs are not capped at all. So you see a lot of teams that were guys that are on the injured reserve that could come back, that don't come back because teams want to use their money to go out and get players. But Drouin obviously is a guy that Yzerman wants to move. He doesn't necessarily have to move him quickly because Drouin is not his contract's not up this year. So Yzerman won't move him for the sake of getting him out of town. But for the right deal, he certainly would.
Yeah, and Yzerman, there's a method to his madness. You know, there's another team that's interesting. I mean, Vancouver Canucks, obviously, they're not going to, do anything as far as postseason. They're not a threat at all. Hell, they're damn near having a yard sale, Dana. There's about 9 players that they've listed that they have said they're all available. And the unfortunate thing is none of them are really going to bring any true value. Any thoughts on Vancouver Canucks with what's going on with this team?
Yeah, they have a lot of holes to fill. I mean, as the season goes on, they're arguably one of the worst teams in the league, if not the worst teams in the league. So they are definitely looking down the road. If they make any moves, it will definitely be for improvements, maybe even in 2 years, because I don't see them competing next year as well. But I do see a lot of teams coming in and looking over their roster and trying to pick apart somebody that actually could help. But Vancouver is extremely weak, and they don't really have a lot to offer anybody else. And I think they're 2 to 3 years away from competing.
That's very well said. I think you're totally correct on that. And again, it just reminded me of a yard sale. Now, the Carolina Hurricanes, Eric Staal, all right, things have not been good with him in management. And, it's been very well versed. It's been wrote about in the papers and everything else. But apparently, I'm hearing the New York Rangers might want to take a shot at him. Any thoughts on Eric Staal or any information that you may have that we don't know about?
Yeah, I mean, I think that definitely makes sense. And Carolina, they're still in the thick of the playoff race, so they have to make sure that they make the right moves as well. The Rangers, though, the problem with the Rangers is they don't have a lot of cap space. They wanted to move Keith Yandle, which doesn't look like that's going to happen now with Ryan McDonough with his injury. So if they move Yandle, that means they get even weaker on the defensive front. I don't see the Rangers making a lot of moves just due to the fact that they don't have a lot of money to spend. So Staal maybe is a possibility, but they will have to make some financial moves to actually make that happen.
Okay. Now, with the Los Angeles Kings, obviously this team's got a lot of holes to plug as well, pushing towards playoff time. I hear they may be targeting Teddy Purcell from the Oilers. Do you have any information on that, or what some of their needs might be for the trade deadline?
Yeah, I've heard that as well. And Lombardi has always been extremely aggressive on the trade deadline because the Kings are honestly always in a position to win a Stanley Cup. But they are looking for a top 4 defenseman to add to their core, which is already pretty top heavy and already kind of playoff heavy. And I think that their focus will definitely be on defense. Marian Gaborik, we spoke about earlier. Here's a guy who has almost $5 million off of the LA cap because of his injury that won't count against their cap. So they do have a lot of room to maneuver, and I expect the Kings to be extremely active come the trade deadline.
And they usually are this time of year, and that's some very good points you brought up as far as, where they're held as far as with the cap and so forth, because that makes all the difference with what they have to spend, and not just this year, but looking into next year as well. Now, you talk about Winnipeg Jets. Andrew Ladd has been one of the most sought-after veteran forwards in the league. Now, I'm hearing that Chicago and possibly the Florida Panthers might be interested in his services. Do you have any updates on Andrew Ladd?
Yeah, I mean, Andrew Ladd to me is a guy that brings pedigree. Obviously, he's got 2 cups to his name. He also has Olympic experience. I mean, as far as statistics are concerned, he's not having a great year in Winnipeg. There's a lot of his plus minus is around -10 right now, -11, which I think is one of the worst plus minuses of his career. And I know Chicago general manager Stan Bowen was in Winnipeg the other day to presumably look at Ladd. There are a lot of reports that Chicago might stay quiet come the trade deadline. But Andrew Ladd in Chicago is considering he already has been in the system and he already knows the system, that to me seems like a good fit. But there's a lot of reports out there that they might just stand pat.
And you know what? It wouldn't surprise me at all if the Florida Panthers, who I heard they're very interested, if they went after him. Hell, he'd fit right in there with Roberto Luongo and also Jaromir Jagr. They're all about bringing veterans in. And oftentimes, as you and I both know, when a veteran is with a team that doesn't have a lot of spark, not going anywhere, when they get moved to a playoff-bound team, it just kind of sparks their energy again. And it really pays off in the locker room, the presence from their veteran leadership. So I think that's going to probably pan out something similar, and I wouldn't be surprised at all if Andrew Ladd ends up a Florida Panther. Okay, before we wrap it up, is there anything else that you may have as far as trade news, something that may be unsuspecting or under the radar?
Well, we're still waiting on what the Boston Bruins are going to do with Louis Ericsson, and the situation with Louis is, I'm sure Don Sweeney would love to unload him. Unfortunately, Louis Ericsson has played phenomenal. So now you put the Bruins in a position of, do we really have a shot to make a deep run? And if we think we're going to have a shot to make a deep run, we want to do it with Louis Ericsson because he's extremely consistent offensively. But unfortunately, he's an unrestricted free agent at the end of the year. And if they don't get rid of him, chances are they won't re-sign him. So the saga kind of continues there for the Boston Bruins and Louis Ericsson.
Yeah, and his name is certainly being talked about. And, that's what really defines a good general manager, when they can make those moves necessary. Hey, look, are we going to have a playoff push? Let's keep this guy. Or, are we going to mail it in and look towards next year? And that's the hardest part, about that sport that I think happens behind closed doors. But at the end of the day, that's why it's a business and not just a sport. Okay, Dana, I appreciate all your information. Viewers, you heard it. There's a lot of good information there that will be affecting your bets on the after this trade deadline is all settled. So, okay, Dana, thanks so much for your input. We look forward to having you back on with us again real soon, my friend.
Well, thanks, Mike. I appreciate your time.